Here on the ground, change happens fast. Problems feel frequent and urgent. It's loud and anxiety runs high. From a satellite view, the Earth looks the same as it did thousands of years ago. We've been here before. Let's learn from our past and shoot for a better future.
Hello and welcome to this episode of A Satellite View. I'm Todd Mikkelson, your host, speaking at you from Sunday, the 12th of October, 2025, in the space and time continuum. And looking at my notes that I began writing on the 8th, which was only 4 days ago, it seems like, seriously, to me, longer than a week ago. I mean, some of the things that I wrote down at the beginning here seem like they happened maybe 3 weeks ago. And that's where it's feeling like a dull headache at this point, I know. This is why we're in the stage now where I and other people are saying, just take care of yourself. Be careful to take care of yourself. Don't let these idiots ruin your life. I know it feels like it's going on, and that we've reached breaking point after breaking point. And the reason it feels that way is because we have. And it's very difficult. It's very difficult to watch the news. So be careful how you watch the news. I recommend things like Heather Cox Richardson and Ann Freeman. They have now every Saturday, they're doing about a half an hour long segment. And it's great, and it'll make you feel better. History makes you feel better. They talk this week a lot about the 1850s. They're both very knowledgeable historians. And Heather Cox Richardson pointed out, next month, there is 52,000 elections in the United States. And she said, participate in them. They are the most important, all the way down to school board or something like that. It's all important stuff. The Republicans tried to place people on school boards a few years ago. During the pandemic, they were talking about masking in school and how it's ruining kids' mental health and stuff. Well, it's not so much the masking that was ruining kids' mental health. It was Donald Trump ignoring the fact that a pandemic was breaking out, so he didn't do anything. And 1.5 million Americans died because of his neglect. That's what ruined all of our mental health. They didn't succeed because in reality, the people they were trying to place in like school boards and things like this, and I know that firsthand because my wife Heidi's on the school board here in our daughter's old school. Our daughter's now in college, but her public school here around the Lake Minnetonka area. The school district is called West Tonka School District. And I don't know if you know this, but Tonka Toys is in the same town as that school. It's not anymore, but that's where it started. Tonka Toys named itself after Lake Minnetonka, which, if you're watching this, I have a map behind me of Lake Minnetonka. Anyway, getting off subject there. Heather Cox Richardson points out that in 1855, she thinks is the elections that really changed the country, brought in a lot of new people with new approaches and new ideologies, setting aside the Whigs and creating a couple years later the Republican Party, and immediately being successful in gaining the White House. She thinks not the 1856 election, which was a presidential election year. She says 1855, an off-year election, brought in so much new blood. This is where we're at now. These are the things that are happening now. There was a sense of that our freedoms were taken away. There was something called the gag order, where you were not allowed to say anything bad about the slave owners. And there were people then pointing out that, that takes away your First Amendment rights. And it empowered the people. It got the people more engaged. What is happening now? The same thing. And what they were doing back then as well, because the slave owners were kind of like the oligarchs, and they had too much power in our government. That's why slavery lasted as long as it did. They were the richest people in the country, and therefore they wielded the most power over the government. And it came to a breaking point. I'm not saying that we're going to have a civil war here. I mean, you could say we're already in a civil war. It's not a military war. We're not going to have a military civil war. I feel 99.9 repeating % sure of that. But they tried to change the language to kind of brainwash people. And what's going on now? All right, let's go back in time. That's what we do here on A Satellite View. We learn from history. And Heather Cox Richardson and Joanne Freeman help us with that now, because I watch them on Saturdays, the day before I tape this. And they bring up a lot of good points. But now we're going to go into what some of the things they said sparked these thoughts to me. Let's go back in time right now to January 20th, 2017. It was inaugural day for the first term of Donald Trump. And if you remember the name Sean Spicer, his first press secretary. And I remember being absolutely astonished and in disbelief when Sean Spicer said, this was the most attended inaugural day in the history of America. And we all saw with our own eyes that it was not. And it was so blatantly obvious. There was less than a quarter of the amount of people that was there in 2009 and even in 2013 on both inaugurals of Obama. And pretty much any inaugural. Obama broke records in the other direction. The most attended, I believe, was in 2009. And Sean Spicer said this was, it was so blatant. I don't know why he said it. I think he was threatened. I think that's when the mobster rule started in the White House. He came out. He looked scared, but he also looked angry, like he was really going to ram this home. And I remember watching that going, how can he say that? What are they doing? It's so blatantly obvious that he's lying to everybody in the world. I had a brief thought. Is this what they're going to do? Well, here we are so many years later. Yeah. Yes. This is what they have been doing. Since then, it began on January 20th, 2017. Officially. I remember being absolutely dumbfounded. Yet here we are. Now what they're doing is they're taking this No King's Day. No King's Day is what it's been called for weeks now. We've been talking about it. It's coming up in less than a week on the 18th of October. And it's been being organized in hundreds, if thousands of places. And it's going to be overwhelming. And the Republicans realize this. So they're coming out and they're saying, right now, Democrats are having what they're calling Hate America Day. No Democrats are calling it Hate America Day. And they're also calling it Pro-Hamas Day. Some say hummus, some say Hamas. Nobody is calling it pro, and of course they get the memo. I've seen Mike Small Johnson say it. I've seen Tom Emmer, who's from Minnesota here, say it. They're going off the same talking points. Let's just tell everybody that the Democrats are having a Hate America Day on Saturday. They criticize the term woke, being woke, because they're scared to death of people being woke. They want us to stay asleep. That's what has been going on. Actually, it could be argued for thousands of years in the world. In America, the Republicans have really been having this. Well, I mean, Donald Trump called the Democrats a gnat. We got to get this gnat. We got to get this gnat off our shoulder. It's called the Democrats. And that's what they think of anybody that disagrees with them. Now, the amount of people that are agreeing with them is growing smaller and smaller. It's almost, you can't see it already. It is so small. So that's why they criticize the term woke. We have woken up. We have discovered. Kamala Harris is saying the system is broken. I don't want to be a part of that. Together, we need to rebuild the system. You are a leader in rebuilding the system. Figure out how you want the new system to be. What do you want America to be like? Let's get together and figure that out and build it. That's what she's saying. And that's what I'm saying. We could not have discovered the system was broken until all of this happened. Starting with Sean Spicer telling that first official White House lie and going constantly now for years all throughout the Republican Party. It was them and Donald Trump's leadership and his mobster rule that made us all see. They demonstrated how broken the systems are. They're trying to tear a lot of the systems down. But they're showing us how vulnerable our systems are. And therefore, how broken the overall system is. If we can just dismantle our government this easily, something is wrong. We need to figure out a different approach. A different approach. And that's why all of this has to happen. And that's why it keeps going longer and longer. Because each week, more and more people see how broken it is. Marjorie Taylor Greene is almost completely against Donald Trump. She was on CNN, and she sounded like a Democrat. She made a lot of sense. She sounded smart. I was astonished. She was talking about health care. She wasn't just talking about the Epstein files. Now she's talking about health care and that the new member needs to get sworn in because the people of her district elected her and she needs to get sworn in. Doesn't matter if she's a Democrat or a Republican. And now Laura Loomer, too. Laura Loomer is turning against the Trump administration. I thought she was like unofficially in the Trump administration. And we're all getting together and now they're joining us. And on Saturday, it's going to be No King's Day. That's what we're saying now. In the 1850s, it was the New Republicans, brand new party. Their motto was fight the slave power. And now we're saying fight against oligarchy and dictatorship. No kings. We don't have kings. Remember? We already had this fight. It was even before the slave fight in the 1850s and 60s. This was what our country's revolution was based on. No kings. The Republicans woke up America when they were brand new in the 1850s. And they said, fight the slave power. They ended up getting Abraham Lincoln into the White House even though they were a political party for just a few years, a couple years. And now, of course, everybody says, yeah, it was the Republicans. Well, the Republicans were what you would call the liberals, maybe, or something. People get way too into labels these days. I see people on the left now saying, I'm not a liberal, I'm a leftist. Okay, whatever. Be careful with all the labels, okay? That's part of what divides us. But anyway, the revolution that rose up in the 1850s is happening now. It's very similar now. Different slogan. We're not fighting the slave power, but we're fighting the same type of power. I mean, really, the Trump administration is kind of a slave power. I don't want to put down or diminish actual slavery, but it's the uber rich running and kind of enslaving everybody who's not uber rich. And again, not to diminish actual slavery that happened in this country up until the 1860s. So yeah, there's a lot that I would like to go through here with you. Not so much news. The news, you're hearing a lot of the news. I'm not going to be talking much about the news that you have heard. And I'll talk about why. But let's take a break. I'll talk about why the news is to be ignored. When we come back from this short break, you're listening to A Satellite View. We'll be right back. Satellite View. Find our website, satelliteviewpodcast.com. Sign up to be on our mailer. Find our YouTube channel by going on YouTube and searching for Satellite View Podcast. And subscribe. It's free. Let's spread the word. Let's get more people in our little community here. Okay, let's get right back into it, though. Why we should be ignoring corporate media. And that includes MSNBC and CNN is almost worse than Fox News at this point. Fox is complete propaganda. But Jake Tapper, the new Chuck Todd of 2025, Jake Tapper was bragging that he had an exclusive interview with Donald Trump, except it was through texting. I'm sorry, Jake, that is not an interview. How do you even know it was Donald Trump that you're communicating with? I mean, it was ridiculous. Jake Tapper is a fool. You're a fool at this point, Jake. I mean, it's just so absurd. He's like, so I texted this question, and then I got this question back. And then I texted this question, and I didn't get an answer back for a long time, but then I did. Oh my God, that's not an interview. And I was listening to MSNBC. Now, I listened to it to try and see what they're saying. I expose myself to some of this corporate media to see what's going on with it so that I can tell it to you, so that you don't have to. So, you know, I would, the people that I know who do follow the news on these type of news outlets like CNN and MSNBC are being driven crazy. It's best to, I mean, when I'm listening to it, my attitude is, okay, let's see what BS they're shoveling at us today. Because that's what it is. Things like, you know, and when we come back, an expert on politics, who is also the oldest, whitest man we could find, when we come back, we'll ask him what he thinks about how young women of color feel about the election. Yeah, okay, you know, that's what they're doing. These quote-unquote experts are living in a different time. We're on a different planet now than we were 10 years ago. Polling, all of this stuff, you know, I mean, I haven't talked about polling for a long time because it's BS. But last year, leading up to the election, I was saying, you know, if the polling shows that the Democrats are doing really well, chances are they're doing way better than that poll is showing, because the polling is not accurate. And we're seeing another election in Alaska. I think it's a mayoral election, and the Democrat won by flipped it by 20 points from the presidential election. We're seeing that even when money is thrown at it, even when Elon Musk's $20 million is thrown into a state Supreme Court election in Wisconsin, the Democrats still just widely overperformed and kicked the ass of the Republican. So even Elon Musk's money cannot save the Republicans in an election. The only thing that saves them is his Starlink system changing the votes. And now we hear this week that there was hand counts in Minnesota. The hand counts in Minnesota showed that the precincts that used machines were 6 to 8% off, in favor, not just off, period, but always in favor of the Republican Party. So that's more from electiontruthalliance.org. You can find, they put up a new video about this Minnesota situation. They put up a new video this week. Go again, I will repeat it. electiontruthalliance.org, and watch the videos there. They have been gathering information for almost a year now since the election day, and they're finding all of this kind of data. And of course, the Rockland, New York situation is going through court. So hopefully all of that is going to gain more attention. But we're seeing that without Elon Musk's Starlink actually changing, so even in the midterm elections, it's more complicated. It's not a presidential election. It's thousands and thousands, tens of thousands of smaller elections. And it's much more complicated for what Elon Musk did in 2024 to happen in 2026. I don't think they're even going to try that, but that's why Donald Trump is trying to start a war. He's sending troops apparently to the Middle East right now, along with his silly ass. And, we'll see. You've heard a little bit about the peace thing. Let's see what happens. Netanyahu does not want peace. Or, he knows that once peace happens, he's going to go to prison. The trials will begin. So I predict he's going to start lobbing bombs into Gaza again, probably this evening. I don't know. I could be wrong. But the elections, I think they're wanting to cancel them. That's why Donald Trump is trying to go to war. Now, I don't think that Donald Trump's even going to be around in another year for the midterm elections. But if the midterm elections do go as they're supposed to go normally, the Democrats are going to decimate the Republican Party, and the Republican Party knows that, and that's why they're even so afraid of this coming Saturday, the No Kings rallies that are going to be happening. Now, a couple other things I want to say about these subsidies to insurance companies. That's what it is. Let's flash back to 2009. Trying to get the Affordable Health Care Act passed. The Republicans started to call it Obamacare because they wanted to trash it. And Obama said, I don't mind you calling it Obamacare, because it's the best thing that's happened in this country to healthcare since the inception of the country. But a huge compromise that was a horrible, horrible thing was that these subsidies, the way they were going to bring healthcare prices down for regular people was by subsidizing the insurance companies. So the American government, our tax money dollars, subsidized the insurance companies, and then the insurance companies agreed to lower their rates. That's what these subsidies are. Actually, I agree with Mike Small Johnson when he says the subsidies to the insurance companies should not keep going. No, I agree with that. They shouldn't, but it was the Republicans that made that happen in the ACA negotiations back in 2009 and 2010. I agree. We should have never subsidized the insurance companies. And that was not Obama's original plan. That was not the original ACA plan. And now we've forgotten about that. And that's how all this shit happens, that and all these other things piling up over years and years, that just makes a mess of everything. And now, I mean, now here we are. So again, Mike Little Johnson doesn't even realize he's fighting against his own party's thing. Now, of course, if we don't keep subsidizing the insurance companies, then the insurance companies are going to raise our insurance costs, our regular people. And they figure about 21 million people are going to lose their insurance. That is going to happen. The Republicans say, oh, no, we want to fix it. Well, that's what Obama wanted to do, 17 years ago. And it was the Republicans who stood up for the insurance companies then. Anyway, these are things that we need to remember. We need to remember these things. Now, more that came out, you know how when people say, I'm no conspiracy theorist, but a lot of that going on. The Charlie Kirk assassination, the Donald Trump ear assassination. Everybody's questioning it. And the people who are questioning it the most are the people on the far right. Another thing that they're questioning even more than people on the left is, did Jeffrey Epstein kill himself? Scott MacFarlane from CBS News, he's a really great journalist, even though he works for CBS. And he did a thing this week on the evidence left behind. He went through the photos that the FBI has of the crime scene and shows that it was, they messed up the crime scene. They moved things around and took pictures. You can see things in different places, in different photographs. They didn't take the photographs that you normally take in an investigation. They completely botched, was possibly on purpose, the quote-unquote investigation. There's a lot of information in this presentation that Scott MacFarlane put on CBS. Find it. You can find it on YouTube. I don't know why it's not a huge story right now, but Scott MacFarlane on CBS reported on it. And it's really interesting. And of course, it's like kind of what we all thought already, And it really does seem like again, Mike Little Johnson now is calling off another week. The government is shut down and he's sending his people home. The Democrats are staying in Washington, D.C. and trying to do something, anything they can do. The Republicans, Mike Little Johnson had sent them home because he's scared to death of this Epstein file vote. And that's why he won't swear in this newly elected congressperson from Arizona. For some reason, this morning, George Stephanopoulos just kicked J.D. Vance off his show. You got to find that clip. It was pretty amazing. J.D. Vance tried to accuse him of doing some far left conspiracy blah, blah, blah story that's just not true about Tom Homan. And Stephanopoulos said, I did not do that. I said this. I asked this question. You didn't want to answer it. So thank you for your time. Let's take a break. And J.D. Vance goes, no, I was saying it. And they cut him off. It was pretty fun to watch, actually. But everything they say seems to get them in a worse place. I gotta mention that this guy in a frog suit, and now it's people in all kinds of inflatable animal suits in Portland, standing up to ICE. Started with this guy in the frog suit, and he would taunt ICE, and then ICE would shoot him with pellets. But his costume made it so he wasn't getting hurt. and also, he was in this costume with his own air system because it's an inflatable costume, so he wasn't being affected by the smoke. It was hilarious. And he's been doing it for, I don't know, at least a week, if not 2 weeks. And you're seeing all these people in these costumes dancing on the streets in Portland while ICE is just standing there having to watch them. It's the perfect reaction to their BS. Use the humor. Make them look like petty idiots by going around in a funny-looking inflatable frog suit and dancing in front of them while they shoot you with I don't know, pepper pellets or something. It just makes them look so idiotic. It's art in its best form. So kudos to the people of Portland. Kudos to the people in Chicago. So many videos of people running ice out of their neighborhoods. It's incredible. And next Saturday is going to be amazing. There's going to be hundreds of thousands, if not probably millions of people, probably all over the world, but even just in America. And the Republicans are scared to death of it. They're scared to death of it. And it's, kudos to everybody involved in all of those things. I'm going to let Anna from Ukraine give you a report on Ukraine. Things continue in Ukraine to be amazing for Ukraine. And I will let Anna from Ukraine give you a little bit of a report here. I'm going to set Anna right by my microphone.
Hello guys, and please be very attentive, turn on your critical thinking, and just imagine similar news updates in 2022. Fire destroyed testing grounds of new rocket in Moscow, the Russian Federation. No electricity on the streets of Belgorod after a missile strike on military energy facility there. Another oil refinery destroyed in Bashkortostan, 1,400 kilometers away from the Ukrainian border. And during this day, Russia lost 5 tanks, 1 Grad system in Donetsk region, 1 K-52 helicopter, extremely expensive, and also destroyed by its own pilot MiG-31. These are super expensive. It was on a mission to bomb Ukrainian cities, but karma interfered. Russia is on fire. Russia is destroying itself from within, and our task is just to speed up the process. My name is Anna, I'm from Ukraine, I'm in Ukraine, and if you want to see the defeat and collapse of the Kremlin, subscribe, we discuss all of that on the channel.
It looks like my memory card is losing memory, so let's wrap this up. Thank you so much for being here on A Satellite View with me. Let's keep each other sane. Let's go through this together. We're going through it, and we're going to make it out the other side together. So thank you so much for joining me on A Satellite View. I'll speak at you next week.
You've been listening to A Satellite View with Todd Mikkelson. Go to toddmikkelson.com for links and more information.